might slip on one as well, Tommy, with my warts and all.
All dangling carrots aboard.
Bombs away, Tommy. We're out of here.
Flight mode. Now, of course,
Flight mode engaged.
To the listener of the Under the Bar podcast, everything just seems like this seamless machine that wheels along. But the reality is, Rawdon, that we've been out of the studio for 3 weeks.
Weeks on end, Tom.
3 weeks. So, and we've been in these scenarios before where we've been out of the studio, and it's like anything. You take 3 weeks away from the gym, and you come back, and the nervous system's all clunky. You know,
CNS.
You're all
CNS fatigue.
Yeah. It's not just the fact that you've lost a bit of muscle and you're weaker, but your movement patterns aren't particularly well coordinated. And I think we should expect a little bit of that sort of activity on the program today. I don't have high expectations for what you and I do to top and tail this episode.
No, I think we should forewarn the listener.
Yes,
it's not going to be one of our best.
No.
It could well be one of our worst.
Could be one of our worst. And
maybe
I
one
think,
like back in the day.
I think our regular listeners, they don't need to be forewarned. I mean, they know.
The fickle nature of the Under the Bar podcast is very hit and miss. You catch us on a good day and it will be reasonable.
Yeah.
But but fortunately for us, Tom, the guests are usually pretty good.
Speaking of which, Rawdon, we've got Clint Hill as our
Quintus
guest
Maximus
today. And look, he's not someone that has a huge social media profile. I'm sure a lot of our international listeners probably haven't heard of Clint. However, he's been in the industry for 20 plus years. He's worked with professional sporting teams as a strength and conditioning coach. He's probably one of the highest quality personal trainers that you'll find in Sydney. But what we're doing today with him is the start of a 3-part series. So today will be part 1 on personal training business, PT business, because he does a lot of mentoring and coaching for one-on-one individual PTs all the way up to franchise gyms, area managing for personal trainers for things like Vision PT. He works with CrossFit gyms. So he has a very vast experience working with all different kind of business models within the fitness industry. And we haven't really tackled this particular area of the industry, and so this is our entry into it.
Well, it's a topic that we've been waiting to find the right tool for the right job.
Yes.
And Quintus Maximus is the right tool for the right job.
Yes.
And the reality is that you and I have very poor businesses.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You know, like basically whatever we do the opposite. You know, and then I think you'll succeed in the industry. So I think that's been our. You know, it's a foreign concept to have a successful business. So we thought, look, how can we build our businesses? And, you know, Clint is a certain amount per hour. How can we take advantage of Clint's skill set, but not actually pay him anything? So I came up with the concept. Let's get him in. 3-part series. We could learn how to develop our businesses so we can be successful in the industry, have a slick business, and at the same time our listeners can learn a thing or two as well. How good was that idea, Tom?
It's really good.
It's
really
good.
Some of your best work.
Some of my best work.
So part 1 today, we're looking at the individual personal trainer business. He'll go, into what he does for an initial assessment. We're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about internal business systems, how you manage your diary, how you process payments, all this kind of stuff.
And all jokes aside, they're the types of things I was talking about. It's not so much that we don't get great results. You know, we're relatively well known in the industry, but the back end, having well-oiled machine is where that's really Clint's skill set. And it's interesting because you'd think, you know, with PTs, one size fits all. It's like, well, this is what you need. This is the software you got to use. But like it depending on your personality, which we'll talk about in a second, it really, like, do you take upfront payments? Is that best, or is weekly payments? So can they pay cash on the day? It's like, you know, there's everything's right, basically.
Yes.
You know,
No right or wrong with this one. It would appear from what Clint's got to say.
Yeah, and being aware that it's all okay, I think was resonated really well with me.
Yes.
So yeah, this has been a long time coming, and truth be told, we were, who can we get for this? You know, who does actually have that track record, and you know, to the point that, because I work alongside Clint out at the Lift Performance Center, he and I are out there going toe to toe, and you know, he's got I think he's about to, if he hasn't already, released his certificate 3 and 4 that he's designed over the last few years. He's got his online mentorship programming, so he does mentoring one-on-one. He has packages for that, but I think he's just I think I saw yesterday he posted up on social media that it's now an online mentoring program. So yeah, this guy ticks all the boxes, and and he's a really good mate too, and we had a lot of fun with him in the studios.
It was good fun to have him in here.
Yeah.
Part 2 will be on sales and marketing, how to develop your brand online and also offline, referral systems and some of those more traditional methods. And then part 3, we're going to look at scaling. Do you get staff underneath you? Do you buy into a boutique gym? Do you go into a franchise? And all of those sorts of things. So it should be a very interesting tripart series. Looking forward to it. Tripod.
It's a tripod. Blink, blink. Tripod.
Okay, so that's that. Now, before we get to Clint, you were on the weekend up in Queensland. Sorry,
Queensland.
Couldn't be with you there. Delivering the seminar with Brods. And on Friday, you were talking about comp prep.
Physique prep was Friday, yep.
Saturday was more
strength and power
sports with Brods. One of the interesting things, and you've always done it actually, is you always refer to your clients as athletes.
Well, tell me, they're not clients, they're athletes.
They're athletes.
I refer to the athletes as athletes.
As athletes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the psychology behind that is...
I mean, that's the... It was interesting you bring it up, because Brods and I actually went toe-to-toe. Brods being Brods, you know, he had a bee in his bonnet about a bodybuilder of any ilk, male, female, whatever.
Being an
athlete in any way, shape or form. Because, I mean, he was the day 2 going into the, strength and power sports, where it was all about athletes, and, you know, they were actual athletes, and... but, you know, he felt the need to jump up and down at the front of the class and sort of argue, and you know, everyone was laughing. You know, as they do, they all laugh with him, and I'm there going, well, Brods, fair point. It's sort of, you know, not really helping my cause here, but let me elaborate a little. And, I mean, it was from the perspective of generally, I mean, if we ask the Wookiee in the room, what do you think an athlete does? Describe. I'm pretty sure he'll give you a decent description. Well, you know, the coach tells them what to do. They follow the plan. You know, they generally are... know that their success is based on how well they apply themselves to the process. I mean, it conjures up all these images and that you want, I think, in a physique prep, and that is 100% the reason why I do it. It's not really disputing whether I perceive, because his thing is, Brods' thing is, they're not a sport.
It's pageantry.
To Brods. So, but he just wouldn't buy it, and it's like, I think I concluded, well, you know, if you want to tell a bikini athlete that she's actually a bodybuilder and call her, well, you're a bodybuilder, I don't know how that's going to fly, Brods. I'll call them a bikini athlete. You know, has much better buy-in. But yeah, the logic and the rationale is exactly what you alluded to, and it's just so they take on that persona of an athlete, and it gives, I guess, me a bit more of a stance when I request certain practices, and when they deviate from said plan, it's like, well, you know, remember what I said, you're an athlete prepping for, you know, your competition, your physique competition later in the year. You know, every day counts, every hour, every minute, that type of thing. So it allows a lot of associated images to be created when if needed. But yeah, I do it when I email. Like, everything is always athlete. It's never, you hear me, it's client so and so on stage. It's always athlete so and so, or a physique athlete, figure athlete, bodybuilding athlete, classic physique athlete, that type of stuff. So yeah, it's something that I've done for a little while, and I think it does have merit. Not disputing the fact whether you know, it's debatable whether they're actually a true athlete. It depends how you define an athlete, and in my defence, I think the IFBB are trying to get into the Olympics, so it may actually be Olympic sport in time. Now, Broads. What do you say then if it's actually on the Olympic platform? So, but yeah, that was quite an interesting moment where Broads and I had a disagreement, but his perspective was worthy as well.
Yes,
and it was great he made it.
Broads always takes that. He's very pedantic about how language should be appropriately used. And I 100% see the rationale behind that. I think what you're doing is it's not necessarily the correct language, but you're utilising that language for a specific purpose.
And with all those associated thoughts and processes that go with an athlete, absolutely. But it was a thoroughly enjoyable time yet again with Broads. It was interesting. Gavin Hewitt had a seminar that he put together with Broads on the Sunday, and he was in attendance on the Saturday, and I had more of a role on the Friday, and Broads had more. It was pretty much his show with strength and power sports. Anyone knows me; it's not my thing. But on both days, I was involving Broads and having mentored with him for the last 3 years or so, and then done many seminars. It's you and I, we sort of know what buttons to push and when to poke the bear and when to pull back and not poke the bear. And, and I left on Saturday night after, steering Broderick along on the Saturday, and Gavin was, batter up. He was up on the Sunday, and and he messaged me on Monday. He said, you make that, working with Broads, you make it look easy. It's not that easy to steer him along and get the most out of him in regards to the topic being presented at that point in time. Always entertaining. But yeah, it is. I think it's like with anyone, I've done interviews with like on a podcast and it's just been not garbage, but I felt that it didn't really
reflect what you do,
what I
the skill set that you have.
Yeah, what I actually know, because the questions didn't really flow, so it is actually a skill to be able to extract that good information and good content from presenters, and
very much so.
It was good, and that was up there with Tony Attridge at College of Health and Fitness. Big shout out to Tony, absolutely awesome guy, and thanks
nice
for orchestrating that together. Yeah,
awesome. All right, mate. Well, it's up to us to see if we can extract some good information out of our next
fingers crossed
guest, Clint Hill, coming up. Cam never lets us down with the old blowing the eardrums out with the sting. Now,
good work, Cam.
Very exciting, Rod, and I think this marks a new chapter in the evolution of Under the Bar podcast.
Well, we got some fresh meat, haven't we?
We do.
Yeah.
We've got some fresh meat, and it's on a fresh platter.
It is.
So, I mean, we've done hypertrophy
to death.
We've flogged the energy balance horse within an inch of its life.
The crab cycle. We've spoken about it numerous times.
So we've recently done gluten again for the 15th time.
Yep. We'll do gut health again soon, but before we go there,
where else can we take it? What other content can we cover? And we thought, well, what do we need? If there's one thing we need,
we consistently make zero money. So I want to keep doing this.
We need some business advice.
Yeah.
So we had to think about the network and who's out there in the trenches doing legitimate business coaching, because there's a lot of PT business coaching going on.
There is.
But we wanted someone with some integrity.
There's a schmancy one over in Bali, I think.
You scoured your network.
Yep.
And we now have in the studio with us Clint Hill. Clint, welcome to the podcast. It's overdue in many ways, but thanks for your time, mate.
No, thanks very much, boys. I'm really, really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Before we get into the business side of things, let's fill the listener in on...
Who's Clint Hill? We know who he is. Cam knows who he is, but maybe our listeners don't.
Okay, so this will be ripe number 23 year in the industry.
Yes.
So I have a double master's degree from Edith Cowan and Sydney Uni, human biomechanics and strength and conditioning.
We have many
multiple
certifications and degrees, so
multiple
we can talk
pieces of paper. And Level 3 Australian Strength and Conditioning Association strength and conditioning coach.
And that was how I met you for the first time many moons ago.
How long was that, Rawdon?
Dude, I think it was 2009,
so
end of or start of 2010.
Yep, so 2009, 2010, I would have been working Bond Street Fitness First as the personal training manager, I believe, and was doing some educational courses for Fitness First at the time, which in many ways was probably my lead into where I am today, to be honest. And I must thank the wonderful commercial sector of the fitness first world.
Yes.
Because it definitely led me to the path that I've chosen, or been thrown down, whichever way you would like to look at it.
Down the hallway, mate. Just throw it down the hallway.
Straight down the hallway, as we say, son. 11 from 11.
Very good.
So very simple. It's all about, for me, now looking at the areas that were missed for me early in the piece. So in those first few years while I was at uni, going through the process of building a PT business. Now, in 1997 in Australia, or in Sydney especially, there was probably about 10 or 12 PTs. Let's face it, I was certainly part of the first crop that came through. There were plenty before me, and they definitely done their time and forged their way. But for me, starting out at FitBods Burwood, God bless it, it's still there.
Yeah, wow.
I certainly was thrown in the deep end. I was the little white guy in a big Lebanese gym, and it was a wonderful experience for me to go through that. But what I realised once I got to the world of fitness first was that there was a lot of things missing. Everything was a real blanket approach. You must fit under this topic, and you must train this way, and you must do this thing, and that's how you grow a business. And what really came clear to me over the years was that, much like a programming scenario, you must assess that client, in this case assess the trainer, work out where the holes were in their repertoire, and then go from there. And that's what I've really sort of worked hard on over the last few years, and I've had the opportunity to work with some Anytime Fitnesses, some Vision PT as their national PT manager, and a whole bunch of other things across the boardway. And
you also left a ton of stuff out with your actual experience. You've worked on rugby teams. You've S&C to the cows come home. You do seminars all the time.
Sure.
And aside from all that, we could talk about all that, but let's assume that there's a ton of experience and qualifications that you didn't mention. What are you doing these days? Because our listeners might be surprised that you still like to be on the tools. You're still doing some PT sessions. You still do a ton of seminars, like every weekend. I think you jetted over to Asia just recently to talk to something over there, and I think you said you're going to Melbourne this weekend for another seminar. And I think mostly because we work together at the Lift Performance Centre, hey Cato, hey team, I think most of your time is spent mentoring coaches in PTs in business, how to develop their business.
Absolutely.
And you've written a Cert 3.4 that will be released as well. So this guy's done pretty much everything.
Everything.
They're complete opposite to us.
Yep.
What I would also say is, before I even knew Clint was doing business coaching or offered any of those services, he was known as a strength and conditioning expert coach. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that that's the foundation of what we're dealing with.
Look, and overseas, you've done like was it Swiss or something? You're over there talking about.
Yeah, so I guess firstly, thanks, boys. There's obviously trying to get 23 years of experience in a 5-minute intro is always an interesting one anyway, and it's definitely also that not wanting to sound arrogant or blow my own trumpet regularly, while still trying to hold my integrity of what I've actually done, and to be fair, it was whilst in the professional sporting world as an S&C that I really realised that the management of people was one of the key aspects that I was good at. I was always able to talk well with people and get a little bit more information out of them than someone else.
It's interesting. I'm just watching you. I'll just jump in there, Tommy. But seeing you in PT at Lift, it's almost like a different session with every client.
Absolutely.
Some you're listening to them. You're talking about the weekend. They're venting. Others is more hardcore training, not as much talk, just not as much communication between you and the client. So it's I see that there you seem to cater for every unique client.
Look,
I
did and anyone who's never done a Myers-Briggs test, I urge them to do it. Okay,
what's that?
Myers-Briggs is a personality test. Okay, now it's not cheap, but it's well worthwhile. Now, the reason that it's such an integral part of what I have done is, for me, the first time I saw the answers to that, I was absolutely blown away by my own, I guess, pros and cons. And what it then made me do is it taught me to ask different questions to different people instead of the same question every single time, trying to manipulate it a different way. Because let's say, for example, we're talking to a PT about what's going wrong with their business. Okay, if I sit down with some 110 kilo ape who is running a basic business out of a commercial facility, he's got his overheads or his rent, his daily dietary supplementation, etc., etc. The conversation that I'm having with him, as opposed to a CrossFit gym owner from the Sutherland Shire, it's a totally different conversation. I have to broach that as a totally different person. It's all unique. It's all understanding what makes that person tick. Why are they here? And we spoke briefly off air before we started this podcast about the concepts around where does your passion lie, where does your understanding and what's missing from your education to make certain things occur. Now, going back to those two examples, if I'm talking to meathead extraordinaire and he wants to grow his business, I look at the things that are missing from his social media. I look at why people aren't coming to him. I look at what type of advertising he's doing, etc., etc. Whereas if I go to the CrossFit gym owner from Sutherland, I'm looking at the things that really make a difference to him. Why are his clients not referring their friends to come and train at his CrossFit gym? What's he doing wrong? Is his programming right, etc., etc.? Yeah. So there's just different questions you got to ask.
This Myers-Briggs, is that a similar thing to like the Braverman assessment?
Very much so. Yeah. It's just
stuff.
Much more in depth.
Okay.
It's certainly, if you
sounds quite confronting.
It's quite confronting. Yeah.
I did the Asperger's test, but my hamburgers, I was wanting to
deep on the spectrum.
Deep on the hamburger spectrum. But
okay, right. So what we've got organised is a 3-part series. Part 1, we're looking at an individual PT business, which will be what we'll do today, and then we're going to go and look at marketing, digital marketing versus organic, so your social media versus referral-based systems.
And how to grow your brand.
How to grow your brand. And then part 3, we'll look at scaling and whether you go into a gym, opening facility, franchise versus boutique.
Mentoring.
Or building staff with underneath you within a gym. But today, PT business. So when you sit down, Clint, with an individual PT, like you've just referenced, obviously it's very individualised. But you do go through a process of conducting an audit of what they're currently doing. So how does that process evolve, and what's involved?
All right. So I rival this directly back to what should occur when you meet your first PT client. Okay, so you go through an assessment process. The assessment is no different to an audit. I'm looking for faults. I'm looking for flaws in their training. I'm looking for all of the little individual things. Now, I'll reference that back directly to PT. So where this really, really, really started for me was a particular PT who was doing a great job as a business, so we all thought. Because on the outside, everything looked roses. On the inside, hadn't paid tax, didn't even actually have a bank account, was taking everything with cash, etc., etc. Now, she came to me in this particular instance and said, I want to buy a house. And I'm like, okay, well, let's have a look at where things are at. Okay, you haven't had an income for 5 years. How are we going to get around that? So that was where I first set about that real business approach to setting that up. So not much has changed since that very day, to be honest. I look at everything from what are your systems, how are you looking after your clients, what's your client care, what are you going through as far as what system are you using for your bookings, what system are you using for payments, etc., etc. So I go through each one of those and work out what they haven't got.
Right.
Now there's about 8 to 10 questions that are fairly religious as far as the topics that I go through, but realistically the key ones for PTs are definitely around systems, understanding your market, and we'll talk a little bit more on niche marketing and a few other bits and pieces as we get a little bit further down the track, but understanding each of your clients' needs, and also then on the next part of it, understanding your own needs, right? So there's no point having this amazing business if it doesn't fulfill your wants and needs, which is definitely a lot of people.
And one of the things that we spoke, and I think you mentioned that passion in there. I think in what we're talking about earlier, and certainly off air, do you think that is also? Do you sort of try and vet that with the PT that's sitting down and find out whether, I think we said either you're super passionate about it and it should, once you've set everything up, make money, and or you're in it for the money, and then the money has to be really good. Yeah. Look, so again, you still need the systems and everything set up and the structure set up. Either or.
Yeah. Look, I remember you saying to me, you as in Rawdon, saying to me about 2 years ago or so, mate, how the fuck do you still do 30 to 40 PT sessions a week?
Yeah, that's what I would have said.
Yeah, and I remember going, what do you mean? I love it.
Yeah. Mm.
And then I realised that it's because I enjoy it, and strangely enough, and you'll laugh at this, Rawdon, because just recently you've referred someone to me who sent me an email yesterday. We had a little quick chat via text, and we've organised our first phone call at 7:30 next Thursday night. Yeah. Now, she's a lady from the Shire, from Shell Harbour rather, and she wanted to go through some understanding about some biomechanical stuff. She's been in the bodybuilding game for quite a long period of time and wants to know some individual unique points of difference. Now, simply when she sent a text message back, it said, "Oh, is 7:30 too late for that call?" And I just sent back laughing faces saying, 7:30 is never too late. It's I'm working whenever somebody needs me to be working. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's actually quite unique that's how much I care about what I do, that I will make it work for someone else, not just make it work for me.
Yeah, and I've seen you in the club, I think on Mondays, is it? Or late, and admittedly it is someone that you've known for a little while, but it's like, what else am I doing? Like I'm on top of everything, and that's fine. I don't mind coming and doing a session. So you really personify that Peter Piper, Victor Pepper. Yes. Really personify the, being passionate about what you do and actually enjoying it. Yeah.
Look, and Cato said it to me before, is, there's definitely that element where a lot of this new breed of PTs, as I like to sort of deem them, have this idealistic approach that, running 6 a.m. sessions is beneath them, or still being there at 8:30 at night is beneath them. And again, I don't want to wear the number of hours I do like some badge of honour, but what I do is I look after the people that I train, and they look after me. So I make sure that I understand where else am I going to get this kind of cash per hour to start with. Yeah. Okay. Not getting it flipping burgers at Macca's. That's a guarantee. Okay. So it's about understanding. If I've got to come back in for one because I've committed to that, well then fucking so be it.
Yeah. Okay. And what other job could you be paid that amount of money per hour to learn from other individuals about other areas of life? Like, I'm sure a vast majority of your clients are successful people in their own rights, and just spending time with them and asking questions. I learn so much stuff from all of my clients. It's great.
Absolutely.
If you've got one that travels to Melbourne quite regularly, and she's very interested in getting the update on her business ventures.
Exactly. Righto. Let's have a look at some of these business systems, Clint, because like you mentioned payment processing and diary booking software. These are things that can cause a lot of anxiety and stress for a PT, but when they're nicely implemented and smoothly operating, it just creates mental freedom to focus on more important things.
Correct.
Or not necessarily more important things, but tangible things within the business, program writing, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So what are you looking at there, and is the software you recommend, or how do you ideally like people to run it?
There's no one software that I recommend in entirety.
Yep.
Now, something interesting, and again, we briefly touched on this off air. None of the companies that I'm about to talk about I'm receiving any form of kickback from, anything like that, and that's part of something that I took from Scott Pape, who wrote the Barefoot Investor. He doesn't want to be solely sponsored by anyone because he wants to be able to review all of the products in their entirety, right? So very simply for me, when it comes to these kind of things, I want to make sure that I'm not, biased towards one just because they're paying me. Sure. Okay. Yep. So, all right. So I guess very simply, I firstly look at how many sessions that person's doing. I look at how their systems are currently structured. Is everything working through one system? Have they got 2 or 3 different systems working? What's going on there?
And you're referring to bookings and things like that?
So bookings, payments, cancellations, changes, the way they want to set up the structure of their own diary. So, for example, right? So let's look at the difference between just using a basic iCal right through to using Mind-Body. Okay, if I use iCalendar, I have to input the data being the client, of course, input what their payment plan is going to be. Do I have to go back through Easy Debit, use a different system for their debiting, or Debit Success or whatever company you might choose to use? Yeah. By the way, they're all pretty much the same. We'll get to that in a second though. Yeah. Then you could jump over to something like Mindbody, which is a complete system, or Create Wealth, PT, those kind of systems. They're full systems. Everything is under the one banner. Now, again, that comes back to what I was saying before. Each individual likes different things. Yeah. Okay, so Tommy, if I was sitting down with you, the very simple fact would be, I know you're a structure man. I know you like the idea behind having everything under one button, everything grouped together, all easy. Sitting in there. Okay, Rawdon, on the other hand, I know that only just recently you now got a systemized program card. Yes. So that tells me that that's not something that was massively important to you back in the day. Okay, so it's not just about understanding who you are and where you want to go. It's about understanding what you actually fucking did. Because if that was important to you, you would have done it 10 years ago.
And tell me, Clint, are you sort of when you're going through this process and working out where there's flaws in their systems? It's a little bit like with a PT learning how to back squat. Now there's 20 things, not a PT, a client,
sure.
But you're in a PT session.
Correct.
And it's like, well, I could give them 20 points to fix that back squat, but hey, just slow the tempo down. Is it like that where you're gathering all this information and then you just start, okay, cool, let's just focus on this for now, get this ship shape, and then...
Correct. So with one personality type, I'll write all 20 down in order and say, right, that needs to be ticked off by then, that needs to be ticked off by then, that needs to be ticked off by then. The next personality type, I'll go, here's 2 things, get these done before our next time we meet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's where I go back to that the Myers-Briggs stuff. Myers-Briggs. Get that backwards. Thank you very much. Said it twice backwards. Sorry, lads. So very simply for me, the concept is look at people as an individual, no different to a PT client, work out what they need. Okay? I know that I could write Tommy a list of 20 things and say, tick them off individually over the next 3 months. Whereas Rawdon, I'd give you 2 and say, do these 2 before next
2
Wednesday.
Years. 2
Well,
years to do those.
if I keep the 2 simple enough, I'll definitely get it done. Yeah. Now, look, it's very simple. Okay, it's just acknowledging and understanding different personality types. When I say it's very simple, it took me 20 years of reading to work this out well enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reading books on emotional intelligence. Understanding. Things that you wouldn't even think relate to PT. Some of the books that I've read over the years, mate, as far as PT, they don't exist. But when you're dealing, especially in professional sport, which is what we were saying before, is if I'm dealing with an entire team of blokes, right? One of them's 18 years old and is young, dumb and full of cum, and then there's a 35-year-old in the team that doesn't even want to talk to the 18-year-old because all he cares about is getting home to his wife and 4 kids and blah blah blah. You've got to be able to play the field there. You've got to be able to understand the 18-year-old, but still turn around and relate and have a coffee with the 35-year-old. It's no different to business mentoring and PT mentoring.
Okay, very good. So obviously we don't want to get all your, if they want to get some mentoring, they can contact Clint and we can go from here. But we want to dangle some carrots for them. So what do you find? So they audit. Yep. Obviously, I would assume it's the case where no PT business is perfect. There's always room for improvement. You could probably even critique yourself, and
Absolutely.
It's like, man, I could be doing this, this, and this. What are some of the more common things that might resonate with our listeners, and they're like, I've got to look into that.
Look, man, that's a really awesome question. Okay?
Yeah, it's some of my best work, Tom. Unlike the question you proposed earlier. Terrible.
My best worst. Yes. Best worst. Yeah.
So I guess the top 2 are a systematic approach to payments, bookings, and then auditing through the accounts process. So whether that be how do I then put in a BAS, how do I then do my yearly tax return, etc., etc. Now, part of that can be just making sure you find an accountant that suits that person. Yes. Okay, which I've been able to do over the years and have a person for that person and a person for that personality type. Like, there's no point sending both of you or any of your listeners to the one accountant, okay? Because Tommy needs one thing, you need another. You've both got different goals. There's different aspects, and some accountants are going to be really aggressive and some accountants aren't going to be aggressive. So there's definitely, that is the point number one. Point number two is the systems around the actual business. So when you book someone in for their first or their initial consult, what happens next? Do you email them? Do you ring them? Do you text them? How do you book them in for the next session? Now, that process, believe it or not, is probably the biggest area of personal growth for me in the last 20 years, because I've seen every system come across my desk. I've seen every major stuff up around how clients have done stuff, and I've also seen every stuff up around how I've done stuff on a personal level. Okay, now it comes down to not just knowing your audience, but also understanding why that is such a mistake. And that's around, is that person actually seeing themselves as an individual business? Or is it just, I'll just cancel that session today because I want to go to the beach? So that's that personal growth and that personal development that need occur to make sure that that's on point.
Okay.
That's one aspect of my business that I've really happy with.
Yep.
Actually, so I have a very good software. So the software I use is Timely. Have you heard of Timely booking software?
Yep.
It's really good. So you can create a client package. It might be, Rawdon, you're doing a 12-week program twice a week. That's 24 sessions. Clint, you're going to do once a fortnight mentoring for 8 weeks. So that's 4 sessions. So I can create those packages. I book you in. You get an email saying your session is coming up here, blah, blah, blah. You come in and see me. Once I've seen you, I send an invoice through that you can pay each session or up front or whatever, all comes to the software. I tick you off that you've been there. It takes your session, takes one session off your package. Easy to track everything. That's great. Client comes in, we sit down, we have the initial consult. There's 8 steps that go into the initial consult. Boom, that's all done. Then they get their initial training program, nutrition program, lifestyle program with the audio that overviews the whole thing.
Oh, yes, the audio.
Everything's underway, and it makes me feel calm that that's going to be handled well. It sets an expectation on the client's end that there's a level of professionalism that's going on that I think enhances their compliance or makes them feel better about the money that they're paying for the service. And it's an easy, smooth way to just get everything done and not have to stress about it. It's very good.
And I guess the point is, you could also say that that wasn't always that way, and now that it is that way, it's such a like, you talk about that with ease now, and everything's set up well. I know you were looking around for something for a little while for that,
Yeah.
So, Tommy, answer this question for me then. Why did you choose Timely?
I'll tell you exactly why I chose Timely, because I had, there were a variety of different softwares. You could use free trials for them, and I had moved out of a personal training company to run my own business. The only software that could enable me to plug in 30 sessions worth immediately was Timely. So I started using that. It worked very effectively, and that's why I use it.
Now,
convenience.
Yeah, but it's not just convenience, Rawdon. And the reason I asked that question is because it was also need. So there was no other software that could enable him to do that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's the point, right? See, this is the gap that I'm talking about. Now, that was a good gap, okay, but if we'd gone over to Mind Body or we'd gone over to something else, that wasn't an available option, right? The differences in package back in the day for Mind Body were not available. The differences in package for like PT Hub weren't available. You had to choose monthly payment. You had to choose fortnightly. You had to choose, if you go back through the Easy Debit days or Direct Debit Success and those kind of companies, you have to choose, am I going to do this type of payment or this type of payment? There's very little scope for changes, okay? So this is where the systems have grown over the last sort of 10 years especially, to now being, there's probably, 20 to 30 good systems that could be used by each individual on a different manner. Now, if you were to go through and do a free trial on 20 different systems, see you later a year. You know, like it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I suppose there's a good point that you raised there, illustrated, Tommy, and then explained there by Clint, that maybe our listeners, coaches that are out there, are using something, but maybe there are flaws and they need to audit. And if there is, like you said, you'd have your ear to the ground far more than what Tommy and myself would. But sounds like there are quite a few systems that are capable now. And do you find that some, like you said, may be more suited for certain business structures and or they all pretty much do the same?
No, look, they're very different, and especially with the range of businesses that I see, like talking, a CrossFit gym that might want to use Waterfire or those kind of systems, right through to a PT that wants to use Timely, MindBody, whatever the case may be. They are polar opposite. Okay, and if, let's say, for example, I am a PT, a CrossFit gym, but I also have 2 ART practitioners, a massage therapist, and a chiro that works out of there. Well, all of a sudden, you can't make those bookings on that system. So, what system do you add to it? But hang on a sec, that works really well with this, da-da-da-da-da. Then what system works with that and actually plugs into the individual system that they might be using to run all of their payments, all of their online programming, all of their in-house programming, etc. So it just comes down to your needs and the requirements of each individual business.
Okay, this is pretty good. We're getting some nice clarity here. So audit, great. I suppose we could then say, well, what are the actual needs? You have to have a good think about. So does that come down to knowing? I mean, is that relevant, finding your sort of niche market? Is that a question still relevant to work out what the demographic is and
there's definitely
what their
2
business
parts
structure is?
Yeah, definitely 2 parts. So the first one is almost like a goal session. Okay, so where do you want this to go? How many sessions a week do you want? How many face-to-face? How many online?
Right. Work out what your business
wants to be. Okay? Then the second part of that definitely comes back into how do you want this to be run? Okay, because I think ideally the system that is chosen must marry up with your own personal beliefs and integrity.
Yeah.
Tommy, totally happy to have one system, locked in, all the bells and whistles, everything there, uses every tab, etc., etc. Someone like myself, totally the opposite. I still use iCal. Now that isn't because it's a brilliant system. It's actually partly because it fits my needs. Okay? It's simple. I do all of my debits through a very simple system, which is, here is my bank account, and away we go. So I still use the simplest of simple, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? You don't have to go to those kind of things if you don't want to. Okay? There's no essential tool that says this is a must. Okay? And look, I'm in a situation, and probably unique, I understand that I've had the opportunity to look and play with so many of these different systems over the year to come up with what works for me.
Very interesting. So really old school here, the bank account details.
Yeah.
So you'd save yourself a few processing fees taking that approach?
Absolutely, but I also sell big packages.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. We spoke about the packages.
Yep. When
you're working with a PT, and this gets what you were saying, Rawdon, about the goal of the business, how are you helping a personal trainer develop his product, or her product, I should say, 12-week up front?
Yep.
Is it take what you can get one-on-one here and there? Like, what do you recommend in that realm?
So I'm going to have to throw a blanket over this one for a second, and then I'll sort of filter it off.
It's a raging inferno. Just simmer it down a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. So
fire blanket.
So there is no right. If you look at let's say a transformation style package that may or may not be sold by certain city dwellers that want some quick 12-week transformation, 1,200 calories, break your neck cardio, and 300 weight sessions over 3 months. Mm-hmm. Or you're getting someone in once a week forever. Okay, I've still got 2 clients that I have had for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now for me, when you look
Couldn't
across
think of
the
anything
board,
worse, just quietly.
Mate.
My God, seeing the same people for 20 years. Oh, it's bad enough with the missus for a couple of months, you know.
Ooh.
She doesn't listen. It's fine.
Oh, that's good. Because
Like that one.
Yeah. The very simple fact there is that, again, it's a needs analysis. Okay, if I get someone, let's just say someone comes to me and says they've got their wedding in 16 weeks' time. Well, then guess what? It's a 16-week package.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just it comes down to what is needed.
Yes.
Okay, and when I sit down with individual PTs, I really break down firstly what they need for income. Okay, you got to remember this too, right? Like this is the nuts and bolts. This is the truth of this industry. Okay, how many times have you heard a PT go, "Fuck, I just got upfront payment of $3,000," and they go and buy 3 new pairs of shoes? Okay, or the opposite. I've got no cash for food this week, so they've got to fake it till they make it. And if I ever hear a PT say that, I will be.
He looked at me when because I told him I couldn't. It's okay now.
But
fasted for a week.
I was also looking at you in the sense that if you went out and bought 3 pairs of shoes, that's what, $19 each or something like that. So
actually, the slip-on Ray-Bans $30 each.
Wow, they've really bumped those.
But they only last 2 weeks. So do the math. They're actually more expensive than your bloody Nikes.
Yeah, they are. So, but look, I guess where that comes back to is looking at each business in its entirety as itself, and you can't just make this up. Okay,
it's an interesting. We actually have had this very discussion.
Yes.
So what I do, Tom, is how everyone has to pay Clint for this sort of information. I sort of just schmooze him with a coffee or two. And so Clint, if I was going to do this, what would you reckon? And he tells me what to do. But we had that conversation, and I think you like upfront payments. You like quite big lump sum.
Yep.
Which is, but I'm like, nah, I've done that,
Yep.
and I just found that, once that money, it's like, there's nothing coming in, and I got to keep training that client. It just feels weird, and so I like that. No, I've done this amount of work for you this week. You pay me for this week. Yes. There we go. If you're around next week, you pay me then. You're around the week after, you pay me then. So it's I'll do the work, you pay me.
Yep.
For me, that just sits a lot better. Like I just don't like having money from people that I haven't given them what they want yet.
Correct.
Because a lot ask, they go, can we do a discount up front? No.
Yeah, so again, that just comes down to personality typing. Okay, and it's
hamburgers.
Exactly. Making sure you understand that you need to be in a situation that firstly you're comfortable with saying, and we'll talk about this later on with the sales stuff, because that is a sales thing. Am I comfortable to say, here's my price for 20 sessions, 50 sessions, or 100 sessions, which is what I do? Or am I only comfortable with saying, here's my weekly rate?
One session.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong, mate. This is the other part of this, and this is where this industry shits me to tears, right? There is nothing wrong with being paid the day of the session. There's nothing wrong with that. It just needs to work for you. Okay? And if that works for you, and if the debit weekly or the debit fortnightly or the debit monthly or the invoice weekly, monthly, yearly, I don't care what it is. Okay? It just needs to be right, and you need to be able to keep up with that system.
Yeah.
Because the second you start missing payments, that's when your business fails.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose we could talk about this a lot more. There's pros and cons of each, up front, weekly, et cetera, et cetera.
I have every combination of those things. I have some that pay session by session.
Yep.
I have some that pay up front. I have some that pay upfront cash.
Yep.
The great thing is that because the system is centralised, once I've created the package for each individual,
it's fine.
The system just
bumbles away.
Just bumbles away.
Yep.
Bumble.
And I think that's a really good point to make. That works for you. Okay.
And I think the other point that was good before I forget it, is that because what I was asking with the packages is there something that's easier to sell or better to sell? Is a 12-week package better to sell than one-on-one training? And you made the point. What are you as an individual comfortable asking for?
Yeah, so let's jump straight onto the sales stuff here, okay? Because this is a massive, massive clincher, right?
Yeah.
So first things first, if you haven't read the 1 Minute Salesman, okay, you're wasting your own PT career, okay? The 1 minute
salesman.
1
minute salesman.
And this comes back to the Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street kind of methodology and so on and so forth.
Even more so than that analysing blood work book that we recommended last week for the listener that they really need to know to be a PT.
Potentially.
Scrap that one, boys. Okay. We're onto this one.
We're onto a new one.
Okay.
Now, the reason that I say that is because that 1 minute salesman, firstly, categorises you in what type of sales you're going to be able to do. Okay. By the way, every PT must sell. Okay. Doesn't matter how good looking you are. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Boom. It doesn't matter how good looking you are, how good your rig is, whatever it happens to be. You're going to have to sell at some point in time. So we have to find the method that is going to make you the most comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
If you I sit down. To me, it's like an interview. Okay. First meeting is a coffee. Because I need to work out whether I want to spend that time with that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
My time is valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, my time is important to me, and I care about the person across from me. I need to know that I've got enough of a connection with that person so that when I do go to sell, firstly, I'm ready for it. And they're ready for it. And they're already begging to buy before that occurs because I don't like that process.
And I see you at the Bean House. Hey,
you
Nick, and the boys there, you're often in there with coffees with people that I hadn't seen before.
Yep.
And then, lo and behold, then they're in for a session a little bit later. So I can confirm that it is the process. You're not just talking out loud.
I don't take my laptop. I sit down. I have no notes. I have nothing. That first coffee is about what are you made of? Okay, do I want to spend time with this person? Is this someone that I can handle introducing to my busy schedule? And am I going to be comfortable with that person? Okay, do I care whether their kids are 25 and 18 or 1 and 3? No, I don't. Okay, it comes down to that person. Okay, so it's about that connection to start with. Now, the next stage of that for me is then going through and going, all right, well, here's an email with all my packages.
Take your pick.
Okay. Now, I've gotten to a point that my sales process is so simple that it doesn't exist. Okay. They get that email and they either send back a message going, holy shit, I can't believe how expensive you are. Or they go, wow, yep, sure, I'll take 20, 50 or 100.
Yep.
It's an anti-sale.
Exactly, right? Now,
it's a reverse. He's reversed.
I've reversed psychology.
He's reverse sales.
Yep. Yeah. So
you got to do that when you've come out of a meeting.
Correct.
Reverse sale.
Yeah, correct. So it's for me, it's about I'm now comfortable that I want to work with that person. Here's my prices.
Yeah.
But I think that's an awesome point there because you are obviously putting a lot of worth in your own time and self-worth. It's like, yeah, I can get you your goal, but you also need to value my time as well. Yeah. Like you're just not another PT that they'll go on to the next one.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I talk about it in that first meeting, how long I've had clients for, what they've achieved, why they've achieved it, so on and so forth. So I give some little case study and see how they react to that.
Dangle the carrots.
Dangle the carrots, exactly right. Now, if I'm sitting down with a brand new PT and I go, all right, so tell me about your sales process. And they go, oh, so I sell 3 PT sessions for $125, and then from there...
You're mimicking me now, aren't you? I'm sure that was my voice he was doing.
Mate, 100%. Yeah. And it's that concept, and we'll use the Fitness First methodology of the old triple pack, right?
Yeah.
So Fitness First decided that if they knew that someone paid something for it, they held it to value. Mm-hmm. So therefore, start off, there's a value there for a service, okay? Once someone has already purchased something, it is much easier to get them to purchase something else. Okay. Now we talked about that a little bit off air as well, boys. There's the concept of what is your program? Do you have an online program? Do you have a face-to-face program? Are you selling seminars? Are you selling courses? Are you selling ebooks?
Bali retreats with
shirts off. So it's very simple to show what your product is if you understand your sales process. So I guess with a new guy or girl, the concept becomes, where are you at on that sales pyramid? Do you just have one product, and how are we going to sell that? And is that your core product, and then you've got these other products off the top of it? So we need to determine where in that pyramid that sale sits. So Am I selling face-to-face? Am I selling via email? Am I selling over the phone? What am I selling? Now, again, we talked about before referral versus cold sell, so to speak.
Yeah.
Referral for me is a huge source of income.
Yeah.
Huge source. Oh, look, 97%. Okay. I think 3 to 4 times in my career, I've had someone find me off social media. But again, that's because of where I'm at, and social media didn't exist when I started. Okay.
Yeah.
So realistically, it's about how those people find you and why they find you. So that's the referral side of things for me. But the referral side of things for someone else is that we look at things like referral drives. So, for example, if we, I was down in the Shire yesterday with a particular group, and we're going to organise a referral drive for their gym. So it's a CrossFit style gym. He's got about 120 members at the moment. He wants to grow that to 150. So if out of 120 people he can get 10 to 20 referrals, that's not a bad number. Okay, 10%.
And tell me, was that 150? You guys had a chat. I need 150.
We'd worked out the numbers.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we went straight to the numbers, worked out what the difference was of what he needed,
so
and
we
we worked it out.
Did the audit.
Worked out the numbers, went through it. Okay, so then we looked at what the options were around the referral. Now, I'll let you in a little nugget here. This is a very simple system. Okay, so if I have a product that I sell in my gym, or I have a product that I own. So let's say, for example, it's Tommy's ebook on hypertrophy, which may or may not exist.
Oh, it's really snappy.
So Tommy puts up for grabs, for every person that refers someone to him, they get that ebook for free.
Yep.
That then means that they are being given something for doing something for you.
Yes.
That is an easy method to get people to refer. It's that simple, right? Now, when you're looking for 2 or 3 people, that's plenty, okay? When you're looking for 30 odd, we get up the ante. So we turn around and we go, okay, so here's your bag of protein, here's your pair of sneakers, here's this. So you refer these people, and you go into the draw to win X. Now, if there's a little prize package that's worth $500, and Rawdon, you were already going to refer X, Y, and Z to me.
It's an incentive.
It's an incentive, right?
Absolutely.
I've been meaning to refer that person, but now there's something
now
there.
There's
I'll
an
actually
incentive.
do it.
I'll do it. That's right. Because we all know someone who could benefit from that. Okay, and look, let's face it. Bob Jones, who's working down here at Commonwealth Bank, sits in an office with 20 people on his floor.
Yeah.
10 of them are going to the gym. The other 10 aren't and wish they were. Okay. Bob looks at that and goes, I might speak to Wendy in accounts, who I know really has wanted to get a personal trainer but just hasn't got off her ass.
Yeah.
Boom, done. Mate,
beautiful.
Honestly, you keep it simple, people do it.
So, Clint, that's just one of the many nuggets you have, and that's awesome. While we're talking about sales, Tommy, I might just chime in. There seems to be a, some in the industry that do coach business and different coaches to yourself, but they'll pride themselves on, that sales process and really, I had so-and-so and they said no 5 times and I was there for 3 hours and I got the sale and I signed them up for 2 times a week for 8 weeks. It's like, dude, if you got to hustle, for me anyway, I'm like, dude, if you got to hustle someone for a couple of hours to get a sale and they said no 3 times, that ain't the type of person that I want. So what's your sort of general, I know it's individual specific and case specific, but like what are your thoughts with that really aggressive style sales pitch and really not letting them go until they, by the looks of it, it's reluctantly signed up just because you didn't give them any other option? Yeah.
Look, and firstly I'll start with that the concept around sales must suit the individual, okay? Yeah. But for me, they're not even the people that are attracted to my type of coaching. Yeah. Okay, so let's understand that it's different strokes for different folks. Yeah. But let's just forget that for a second, and let's go to this aggressive type of sale. Now, I've had a red hot crack at doing that, right? Selling seminars to people that haven't wanted to go, or selling retreats to people that and I've sat on the phone and I've answered all their objections, and they're still saying no. That's an old school methodology. Now, yes, it works, and sometimes it's what that person needs.
Yeah.
But again, let's go back to the Myers-Briggs. There is about a 5 to 12% category that fit in there. That's it. Okay, everyone wants to be sold to. Yeah. Every single person wants to be sold to. Okay, whether it's buying a new T-shirt or a new car. Okay, we want the sales process. We just want to feel that we're part of it, and we want to feel like it's a feel-good thing. And who the fuck doesn't want a brand new car, right? Like, it's nice, it's flashy, it's blah, blah, blah.
New car smell.
Toxic one, yeah. Now, that's an interesting one, because smell is an interesting thing when it comes to selling. So selling with a coffee, if somebody likes the smell of coffee, is always a good option.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay?
Very good.
Another little, very simple nugget. But look, it's that aggressive sales technique has certainly gone out the window. It certainly still works with that top end of town, like that, sure. and the three of us sitting here probably know exactly which gym chain I would be discussing with the aggressive sales mentality around 12-week transformations. But the concept is understanding why that's the case. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. And if that person needs to be aggressively sold to, that's great.
Right.
But they are not the people that I attract.
Yeah, and it's only a small percentage of all people.
Correct.
5 to 12%.
5 to 12%.
Yeah, right.
So so that example that I would have been, the rest of their sales might have been fine. It was probably just one or two that
Yep.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Now,
cool.
if you're a chameleon, which is, everyone knows what a chameleon is, but if you're a sales chameleon, you can go right through from that aggressive technique right through to the subtle soft selling approach, where the person actually ends up going, come on, I really want to work with you, please take me on.
Yeah.
I'm not. I understand each of those methods,
yeah.
and I've forced myself to learn that, so that if I came across a certain person, I knew how to interact with that. But the other part of it is it's the same reason that I don't like that technique as I do what I do, because I want people to want to work with me. Yes. I want people to understand the value.
Yeah, and it comes back to that point. What are you comfortable with? Like, I'm 100%. Just not comfortable having that person to coach them. It's like, I'm not going to convince you to work with me and then work with you. Like, it just, no.
If you haven't done a good enough job of telling your story about what you can give that person,
exactly,
then you might have to go down that aggressive pathway if you need to make that sale. But truthfully, tell your story better.
Should be necessary, yeah.
Okay, so in the 10 minutes that we have, what about actually programming systems and stuff like that? So we've been through the internal systems that manage the business.
Yep.
You've done your audit. We've got an approach to
payments, that type of stuff.
We've developed an approach to a sales process which reflects the individual's nature,
what they're comfortable
to sell. What about managing? One of the hard things for personal trainers is wanting to deliver a good product and have individualized programs for all of their clients, getting those programs done on time in efficiently and
timely manner,
and programs that actually make sense.
Sure.
How do you go about helping people with that? Because there's layers to
and there are a few products out there as well, the Trainerize and these types of things. So what are your thoughts in general?
Okay, so I'm going to be I'm going to put myself on the chopping block here, because it's a really simple one for me. I had 20 odd years of programs flying around in my laptop and in hard drives all over the place, that all came off a simple spreadsheet that I made in third year uni. So that was in the year 2000. Now, I used that up until probably about 2010, 2012, before I moved into what system, I can't remember, was the first one that I did. Okay, I now use Trainerize, which I've totally changed to myself. I've got branded, I've got a whole bunch of different things, but that doesn't mean that is the only system that I would suggest. Okay, so I mentioned Waterfly before. That's a fantastic system for people who are running online style programming, and it's a fantastic system for interchangeable sessions weekly. So, for example, a CrossFit style gym, or a someone who needs some serious variety in their training for whatever reason. Okay, let's just forget the topic around why that might be the case. But if you want to change the program daily, and then the following week change it daily again, and then the following week, something like Waterfire, Train Heroic, those kind of systems are really, really easy to manipulate to get that. If you're running a trainerized style system, it's like a 4 or 6 week block. Whatever you need to make that happen works really well with that. Okay. Now, again, we're just using the systems that suit the individual. Okay. There's probably about 8 to 12 out there that work really well, and it also depends what you want to record. So, if I'm doing remote coaching for someone that I never see, I need them to be able to input the data. I need to be able to track, I guess, the analytics of, is their bench press going up, is their squat going up, etc., etc. And then I need to work out whether I think the percentage that it's increased over that 6 week block is the reason that I'm going to make the change on the next 6 week block. And the one very simple thing that I have learnt over the years is you don't make changes for no reason. Right? The number of times that someone sent me back a program after 6 weeks, or we've had our check-in session after a 6 week of remote coaching, and I go, okay, cool, we're not changing any of the exercises. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well,
numbers
everything's still going up.
Yeah.
You don't change shit until it's ready. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Right. Now, the tools that we have available to us are many. Okay, but you don't use the tool until you need to.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, all right. So, basically, what you're saying there is there are tons of, well, not tons, about 10 to 12.
10 to 12,
that are pretty competent, each with slightly different functionality.
Yep.
And would your general, like we're talking about making a PT business more efficient, coaching business more efficient. We want these guys to have the process easier. And like Tommy alluded, it is a thorn in the side of many a PT, myself included, and might be a little stuck in our ways. Is finding one of those systems what you would recommend from the get-go? It's like, hey, programming, I understand it's a fair chunk, or say, for example, the PT has identified that as being and I do these programs, and every, a couple of hours a day, it's just driving me nuts. Like, would that be one of the very first things you consider? Or someone new to the industry, would your advice be, hey, yes, you can write it on an Excel doc, but there's just so many good, and they're pretty well priced, you'd be foolish not to use these systems.
So I spoke at an annual conference for Fitness First in Asia, and one of
that might have been the one I was talking about.
Maybe it was, and one of the questions I was asked is, how would I change? Sorry, this was asked by a senior PT, might I add. How would I change the induction process for
Fitness First,
right? And I said the key one for me would definitely be that I would manipulate the way those systems were shown in that first stage, right? Now, I would make someone go through that full needs analysis that I've just explained to you. Now, that may be difficult because that PT may not actually know what their needs are when they can't start. But wouldn't you prefer to have a decent starting point than a shit one?
Absolutely.
Okay. If I can,
especially when you consider PTs, what's the lifespan of a PT?
6 months.
6 months.
Okay, so if I can simplify your business from day one, I want to be in a position where I get to looking after systems better. Okay, so if I could change that, it would definitely be that at that point in time, I would do that needs analysis in that induction and show those PTs. This is the one I'd use for you. This is the one I'd use for you.
Interesting. And on the theme of what we've pretty much said for the whole last hour, there's no one program that's going to be great for everyone.
Nope.
Like, you really do have to work out what your business is, what you need, and then.
Yeah. Look, the three of us sitting in this room all have different billing mechanisms, different program cards, different ideas, different knowledge, and a different understanding of what we're trying to achieve. Like, it doesn't matter how many PT sessions you're running. It matters what system works for you.
Very, very good. Okay,
Quality.
So there's a lot to cover in our future sections. Clint, if people are interested, if like today we're talking about one-on-one PT coach development, people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
So
for the initial coffee.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But be aware, they're going to be sold something.
You are not walking away.
Don't go for the 100 package.
Correct.
That's going to send you broke. Maybe the 50 or 25.
So Clint at hillstrengthandperformance.com.au.
Yeah.
Or Instagram, which is Clint_hillstrength.
Yeah.
Okay. I am now getting to a strange point in the social media world where people are actually recognising that, which is incredibly strange for me, considering that I made mention on another podcast the other day that if I open a brand new PT's Instagram that sits down with me and Paul Matthias, who Rawdon and I know quite well, if the first 9 photos are of you with your shirt off, there's a real good chance that I'm going to delete you. Okay, but so back off that. But yeah, look, I'm
Instagram.
Definitely Instagram, Facebook, which is just Hill Strength and Performance.
Well, they could even come into the Lift Performance Centre.
Absolutely.
Or into Bean House next door.
Yes,
you'd be having
you're probably more likely to find me sitting with Rawdon having a long black and a short black for the pair of us. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome, mate. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
And we're going to have him back for round 2. And what are we going to cover round 2, Tommy?
Sales and marketing in more detail in round 2. And then round 3 will be scaling.
Okay.
Yeah,
and we'll probably have some loose ends to tie up from this one today.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We'll dot I's and cross T's.
And any questions as well. Like, I think the other thing here is that if someone's got a question for you guys via me or for me via you, I should say, more than happy to answer those, because I think it's really important to acknowledge that I am an individualised coach. I individualise the system to people. So if somebody out there does have an interesting question, please fire away, and we'll endeavour to try and answer it.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. See you soon.
Cheers.
Well, there it was, Clint Hill for part 1. Really enjoyable, Rawdon.
I dare say he's getting a bit loose there. Is he a little bit loose around the edges?
He was a little bit loose around the edges. Yeah,
he was doing exactly what he spoke about. You got to be comfortable. Like he changed the way he was dealing with us.
Yes,
he's very clever.
Yes, I think Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs. I think a very valid point there, Rawdon, was that apart from taking all of the business infrastructure into consideration and understanding your clients' needs, your demographic and your market, having an understanding for your own personal needs. I mean, we enter the fitness industry because it's a lifestyle choice. We love training. It's part of our day.
Well, not all of us love training.
But in the midst of all of that, it can be very easy to get lost in a swamp of PT sessions and lack of sleep and not a clear path forward as to what a happy future could be. So that was a valid point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and what did he say there? Did he mention the average lifespan of someone in the industry? I think he might have rattled that off.
Yes.
I think it was less than 12 months or something. Yeah, so for myself, I was at Fitness First, and my attitude was to just exhaust the initial duration in the club. So I was there morning till close. Fortunately, I live nearby. Fitness First Hornsby. Steve Bordeaux's still up there. Hey, Steve. But I was basically my logic was I'll just be in there as much as possible. I'll talk to as many people as I can. I had a little book. I had everyone's names. Tom, cricket. Hey, Tommy, did you play cricket on the weekend? Hey, did you do that little jump at the nets again? Yeah, cool, no worries. Don't forget to let me know if you... And I had this little book that I'd carry around. When they came into the gym, I would open it up, and it's like, big guy, curly hair, Mike. Hey, Mike, how you going? Just yell out across the gym, and he'd be like, oh, how you doing, dude? And that sort of layering, I guess, is I think it was the method that when I went to HQ, where they break you in over at Fitness First there before you actually start in the club. You have different. They teach you basic sales techniques, and I think with my manager then, Darren Lamb, they would sit down once a week and talk to you about how to build the business. So there is some infrastructure in there. And that layering technique is what I pretty much used. I wasn't aggressive, but I would aggressively talk to people, but I wouldn't necessarily sell. Yeah, it would just sort of layer it. And that's how I built my business. And I went to did the hard yards for the first sort of 7 or 8 months. I was in the club open till close, ducked off for lunch throughout the day type thing, but I'd be in there till late at night. I had sessions through to... But then after that, I started, okay, now... the business is up and running, and I could start whittling down some of the sessions that are a little... So I could get some of that, like you said, that structure and that lifestyle back that was a little more enjoyable. But
you've kind of got
to do your time. I think.
You've got to have you have to be through the experience of being just arse blocked both ends.
Yes, arse blocked. Put that down on the back of a t-shirt.
PT.
But yeah, and it was it was. I think that's good stuff from Clint and lessons to be learned there for all of us.
So part 2 will be coming up very, very shortly when we look at sales and marketing techniques, social media versus traditional referral methods.
And for you, Tommy, if anyone's interested,
tomhewitt.com.au.
For me, the Yubana method, Instagram, Facey, and don't go to the website. There's nothing there.
Thanks for listening.
Liftoff.